This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
This Father's Day, do more with Dad and spend less with low prices guaranteed at the Home Depot. Get him fired up with a new grill and accessories, like the Next Grill 5-burner for just $299, so you can spend more time together while he becomes the grill master he was always meant to be. Or build memories with savings on top brand power tools so you can tackle projects side by side. Gift more and do more together this Father's Day with help from the Home Depot. Exclusions apply. See homedepot.com/price match for details.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
At the Musial with Alan and Daniel, we'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. Everyone come gather round, listen to your favorite sound. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We'll talk the games and all the rest, about the team that we love best. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We're gonna talk about the Cardinals all night long.
Good morning and welcome into another edition of Meet Me at Musial. I'm your host, Daniel Shoptaw at C70. With me as always, Alan Medlock, a Medlock1 on the Twitters. We are coming to you Saturday morning after a frustrating night of Cardinal baseball, but also a very I don't know, momentous seems a little bit much, but active afternoon as well. A lot of things to talk about when it comes to the Cardinals, Alan. And let's start with the big one. Let's start with Nolan Gorman being sent down and Blaze Jordan replacing him at third base for a while. We've known how bad Gorman has been. We've known that he's been struggling, but it didn't feel like anything was going to happen, and then all of a sudden it did.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that sentiment. I feel like there was enough groundswell now that I was fairly confident something was going to happen. Especially seeing the success of the other guys, and I mean, not only is it bad right now, it has cratered for him. Mm-hmm. That's what blew me away. The numbers were really, really bad. And I thought, you know what? I have a feeling something's going to happen here. I didn't think it was going to be a release, especially with the options that he has left. Right. I did think it was hey, in this year, what our expectations are, we're exceeding them, but this has been the game plan from day one. Let's see what we can do. So honestly, yesterday's news, Gorman being sent down didn't surprise me as much as as Blaze Jordan being called up, if that makes sense. Now, I understand that's the low-hanging fruit, the easy move. I just thought maybe because how we felt in the past couple of years about how, man, that would have made a lot of sense to get him up and get him some at-bats, and didn't happen. I was kind of in the mindset of, I wonder if we're getting ready to see him sent down. I don't know who was going to be called back up, and it'd be a Fermin type deal at third base every day. So I was actually pretty intrigued yesterday when it was a 1-for-1. Hey, you're going to come up, you're going to play third base. Some of the reporting was out there that wasn't going to happen, and I completely understand. And honestly, he's kind of blockish. I noticed that yesterday in the game, but I mean, it was in one game, and he made every play that was hit to him. But no, to answer your question, I wasn't overly surprised of the move. to send Gorman down. I was glad that Ollie doubled down and said, "Hey, we're not giving up on him. This is just part of the deal." I was kind of glad to see that, but also glad to see that they are moving on from him because, like I said, he is cratered, and that was a big hole in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I think it obviously needed to happen, but I think 2 reasons why I was a little bit surprised. One, it's still a mindset from the past, right? That I think we've seen these kind of struggles play out over a lengthy of time
Sure.
and
Yeah.
not
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
have in the past. And the Heim Bloom era has been a little bit more aggressive in those kind of things. So should have probably seen it coming, but still not so much. But the other part was just that idea of who's going to play third base. And, we've just been a week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, we were a lot of discussion about how Jordan can't, he can stand at third base, but he can't really play third base. And it really felt like the team was not going to want to take the risk on that kind of defense because that's one thing Gorman had going for him was the fact his defense has improved so significantly. And as a team that relies on their defense, that was important. But it just came to the point where they finally realized, yeah, he can stand over there well enough. Like you said, maybe he can make the plays that get
Yeah.
to him and, we'll deal with it. And, because you're right. I mean, you look at some of the numbers, he would start off at a bad place and then just spiraled just lately. I mean, and it was nothing was going well. So, and it's very interesting, and the Cardinals apparently have been debating this for a while. And
Sure.
it sounds like the setback on Ramon Urias was the kind of the thing that finally pushed him over the edge. Because it sounded like if Urias was going to come back, kind of like Church did, kind of
Yeah.
last week or so, um, I don't know. I don't know if they would have sent Gorman down when they activated him. I don't know if they would have just tried to work with Gorman and not play him, let Urias play most of the games and keep Gorman. I don't know how they would have done it, but obviously they would have taken a step back from Gorman at that point. But Urias had the setback. He's going to be gone now till the All-Star break pretty much because they put him on the 60-day to make room for Jordan. And that's retroactive, of course, but that's what should work out to be. Um, it was interesting, and I think it's a good thing because we've seen Jordan, and we're getting, and it's a little bit of the same with Joshua Baez. Prospects that are really doing very well at Memphis, they've got to have some hope that they're going to get called up, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't mean that they have to be called up now, but in a spot there where Jordan is hitting like crazy and Gorman's not, and they're still not doing anything. I mean, that would probably eventually take its toll on Jordan as well.
I would think so. Yeah. And that's a great point. Hey, you play well down here, you're going to get a shot. I like that. I mean, because that aligns with the messaging of, hey, we're going to figure out who we are. We're still in the assessment stage for the most part. No, no, even that. I think in some of your assessment stage, now you're thinking, you you're a heck of a lot better than you were reported to be. I think there's a lot of enthusiasm that goes around that, but I think that you make a great point of, hey, if we're young, if you make an impression, if you check these boxes, we're going to give you a shot. And if it works out, great. If not, back to school. One of those things. But I think you make a great point on that. Something that I hadn't really considered of, hey, we brought you over, you've hit, let's go. And I kind of like that.
And they've been doing it. I mean, the Torres and Crooks both, have done well enough at the minor league level to get that kind of bump up as well, even when it wasn't really clear how that was going to happen, right? I mean, especially with Jimmy Crooks, we talked about it a lot, right? And how is this going to? And eventually, he made it enough that they sent Pozo down, and we weren't really sure they would do that. It is again just touching on that mindset of what the front office looks like now, and it is, if you can, you're going to reward it. Now again, it's not just about the stats that you put up at Memphis or whatever, because right now, I mean, if you look up and down the minor leagues, they're putting up some remarkable numbers as of late, everywhere. But that's a lot of it, and I'm glad to see that they got Jordan a chance to get up here.
Sure.
And I'm glad he got first hit, first RBI immediately, gets another hit. I mean, he's definitely going to add to the offensive capabilities of this team, which has gotten. And we saw a lot of this online last night, talking about how how the bottom of the lineup has changed over the last 3 weeks. With New Bar coming up, with Crooks being there, now with Jordan, that 6, 7, 8, 9 area is a lot stronger than it was, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's actually the lineup has gotten really deep. I mean, last night was pretty exciting. The lineup that they put out, just
Yeah.
had some out of the newness and all kinds of stuff like that. But yeah, it's greatly improved. And a couple of weeks ago when we were on with Alex, I said 12 months ago we were never have been, hey, I can't wait to get Newt Bar back.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
wouldn't have been the situation. Well, now he comes back, and you can see some leadership differences, and man, and some of the batted ball metrics that he's had forever have now starting to show through. And it's one of those that, yeah, the lineup's really, really deep. I mean, it's one of those to where last night is disappointing, mainly because I think you and I and everybody that's close to the ball club is just wondering when the next shoe is going to fall and they're going to go on and they're going to lose, 7 out of 10, 10 out of 12, and be who we thought they were going to be early in the season, where where the youth's going to start to show and some cracks are in the facade. I think that's why those games like that are frustrating. Not to look at it and be like, I know that the records were similar to last year, but I don't know if we've seen a run like Walker's been on in a long time.
Yeah.
And then it's one of those to where you turn around and look. Anytime that he's in the lineup, Weatherholt seems to have 2 hits. One of those things to where it's like, this is really, really intriguing. I'm still in the vein of I'm nervous that they can't stay in this because of the rotation. The rotation's gotten a lot better. May get better, but I'm not so certain that all the rotation pieces that they have right now are still going to be Cardinals in a month or in 2 months, with it being August. So there's a little skepticism of, hey, is this to me, this is one of those, a series that can sneak up on you a little bit. The Twins haven't been playing well. There's a lot of talk of that. They sold last year, potentially Ryan, they'll sell this year. You never know what's going to happen with Buxton, to where this is kind of one of those trap series to where you've won so many against rivals and have played well that you come in and may lose 2 out of 3 in this one, which would be disappointing. But still yet, I still think that going back to the point of lengthening the lineup, I don't know, Dana, I think they may be here to stay. Whether that's a playoff spot or not, I think they've convinced me enough at this point to think, hey, this team's pretty darn good.
I mean, yeah, it is going to depend. And again, we've seen a lot of talk. We've had a lot, and it's fair. I understand it. We do the same thing. But there's been a lot of talk about the trade deadline and whether the Cardinals will trade it, stick to the plan, trade off May and Stanek and all those other people, or if this surge is going to make them stand pat or even maybe buy a little bit. But there's 2 months. There's a long way to go. Like we were saying, this time last year, they were in the rough same position even until July. Beginning of July last year, they still looked like they were gonna. And then they had that terrible, start to July, and that kind of sealed the deal. So you don't know, but I do think this team is going to be able to be competitive in one way or another. The Central is so bunched up that it doesn't take a lot to slip from second to fourth. I think with the Reds going now, that's I feel like you can stay ahead of the Reds pretty well. But the Cubs and Pirates and Cardinals are kind of all be right there. I don't know if anybody's going to catch Milwaukee, especially not if Mizorowski.
Yeah, they just win last night. Yeah, they just win, don't they? I mean, it's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, and they do, and that's what you kind of hope the Cardinals build back up to. But all that said, yeah, I don't think they're just gonna hit a tailspin and all of a sudden be this 400 winning percentage team the rest of the way. I think this is a pretty good team that's going to have its bumps, and I think a game like last night, it was frustrating, no doubt about it, and there was a lot of questions that we could have, and maybe we'll talk about them here in a little bit about how that game was managed or how things went. But every team has a game like that, during the year.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dodgers are going to have a game where, it just looked at, talk about frustrating. When was it? I don't know who it was this week. I've forgotten who it was, but their bullpen gave up 5 in the 8th and 5 in the 9th,
Yeah.
and lost, and I think it may have been Washington.
It was
Or San
Washington at San
Francisco.
Francisco.
Yeah.
San Francisco is the one that scored.
Yeah. So, that kind of frustration is even more than what we saw probably last night. But everybody's got those. And in the moment it feels terrible. And I really would have liked to. I haven't seen any discussions about what the thinking was on some of the decisions last night. But I don't think that is emblematic of what this team is. I don't think that you're going to see a whole lot more of those kind of games. Now, to be fair, we've seen 2 games in a row where an 8th inning home run has sealed the deal.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's not a trend that's going to keep going. But yeah, I just, you look at this team that, went into New York and scored 16 runs before the Mets scored 1.
Yeah.
It's gonna have its ups and downs, but I think it's a much better team than we thought, and I think you're late enough. You can call it just like Jordan Walker. You can call it for real.
Yeah. That's last night it was one of those after he hit the double. I just told Amber, I said, something I hadn't thought about is the pace that he's on. It's almost it's insane. And I'm like, good for him. You know what I mean? That was my issue of, hey, he's young. We've got to see how this plays out. And boy, it's exciting right now. And I mean, it's just confidence across the board. I mean, you can really see it in right field. And it's exciting right now. And the lineup seems complete. Burleson, boy, he's on a heater right now too. And it's really, really fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, he's already got a career high in home runs. Last night he's got 55 RBI. He's more than halfway to 100, and it's not even in mid June yet. It's kind of crazy. I mean, he has 44 home runs in his career, so that's what he's gonna probably double his career home run total, and maybe do that by the All-Star game. I mean, that's just amazing what he has been able to do, and I think a lot of people, I'm not going to say I was one of them because we were kind of questioning whether this was ever going to happen. But there was that idea that eventually this was all going to click. And when it did, it was going to be amazing. And so far, that's the case. It's going to be very interesting to see. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the second half goes for him and then how he follows it up next year. But right now, it's a pretty remarkable run that we're seeing.
Yeah, that's it's going to be an interesting second half. I mean, I can't imagine fatigue is going to be an issue. He's played several full seasons at this point. So, yeah, what it can be it could be awesome. I mean, at this point, he has to start in the All-Star game, right?
I mean, it being that voting is a thing,
Yeah.
I know, but if you're talking about deserved to, yes. I think that, especially in this day and age with electronic voting and vote 5 times and all that kind of stuff, and not punching it out at the stadium, I think you have to be almost an otherworldly kind of player to win it out of St. Louis to some
Well,
degree.
those are superstars. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the thing. It's sometimes I always feel like it finds a way to happen, though. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah. I mean, if anybody doesn't go, if anybody gets hurt, anything like that, I mean, he's right there. And I mean, who knows? I mean, he still could. I mean, it's been a great story. The publicity's been out there for him, so it's possible that he would. We're still I think 2 weeks maybe from the first update or something of voting, so it's hard to know. But I would like to. And again, I think he deserves it. I would just be a little bit surprised if he was able to overcome. Because somebody like Soto has got it. Being a Met and being very good and in a huge market. We'll just have to. And I don't know. I can't remember if. I don't know. Yeah, I just think that it's pretty. It'll be interesting to see if he can, but I I would be surprised if he's able to overcome some of the built-in disadvantages for him.
Yeah, it sucks.
I mean, you may be right. I mean,
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, without any updates, it's hard to really know until we get some sort of vote total. And
Yeah.
but and it's the last few years there hasn't been a Cardinal that stood out on the national scene. I mean, even Mason Wynn's defense hasn't necessarily broken through, to like the casual fans that might vote. And even if it did, his offense hasn't been there to overcome some of the really good shortstops that are in the league. So it's hard to know because I haven't really had that kind of guy since Albert Ayati. But I don't, maybe, like you said, it's one of those things that maybe next year, if he has another good year, that, it's enough because he's had some success. But I'm very interested to see where he shows up in the listing this year.
Yeah, that's it's I've noticed, and why I say that a little bit more is the national shows have really spotlighted him a lot. So
Yeah. And I mean, it's always fun to see. You can always tell who's going to play in New York, because that's when they start getting their stories, or they get their time on MLB Network
yeah,
or anything like that. Because those guys will go into the stadium, all that kind of stuff. So you get a lot more national pub when you go play the Yankees and Mets, and that's what happened this week. We saw Weatherholt and McGreevy, I think on MLB Network, and there's just a lot of talk about the Cardinals there. So that helped. I mean, it's a good time for it, especially for Jordan Walker. I know he had the article. I haven't read it. I know there's an article in the Athletic about him from one of the national writers this week. So I mean, it can't hurt at all, and we'll see how it goes. But I don't know in this day and age how that works.
yeah, it's yeah, you lead me back to I was pretty fired up about the ability to vote off the QR codes and all those things, and but I do miss the punching at the stadium.
Yeah.
I always like that because you had them in all the minor league parks too.
Did you? I can't remember. I don't remember ever going to a Travelers game around the All-Star break to have it. I did go to St. Louis at least once or twice in June as a kid, and I remember getting the punch outs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you had the punch outs in the ballot boxes. Yeah, they had them. They were in Tulsa.
Yeah, it was pretty remarkable, and I appreciate the fact that there's electronic voting now because there are a lot. There's so many fans that can't get to a ball game, right? I mean, and that's fair. So I get that, but I don't know. I just wish it was more like once a day or something like that.
Sure.
And not everybody does 5 times a day or anything like that, but still, I don't know. It feels a little bit cheesy to some degree, and the way they do it now, when you vote for the group, and then vote for the starters, and then vote for the extra. I mean, it's just like, of course, it's all about engagement, but it's also about marketing too. So which, I mean, that's what the All-Star game is about to some degree.
That's true.
Anyway, so last night's game, I think it all started to go south for me when Ollie tried to run Kyle Leahy out there in the 6th inning. And like I said, I haven't read the articles today. I don't know if he had a chance to discuss that. But, I mean, Kyle Leahy has been absolutely terrible third time through. He didn't look all that sharp. It didn't look all that sharp necessarily all game. It definitely did in the 5th. What do you think the thinking was to run him back out there for another inning, or try to?
And after a rain delay.
Yeah.
I mean, what I mean? It was abbreviated, but you're right. I feel like all those things got factored in. On the surface, it didn't surprise me much. I'm thinking, well, I don't know what bullpen is taxed. One of those things. I didn't think too much about it, but that hasn't been the MO all year. So I'm sure there's some logic behind it somewhere. I'm just not sure what it was.
Yeah.
And it was somewhat frustrating. I mean, I guess on the positive side of it, I mean, you're like, well, 3 bombs given up is the issue, and then the 2 walks in front of it by Graceffo is another one. I don't know. It's um yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we'll get answers somewhere, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, I mean, probably not, especially not afterwards.
Is
I
there an
mean,
element that, hey, we're trying to extend him somehow? What type of situation? I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure that if you're going to make Leahy a starter, which again, I have not been a big fan of ever since they announced this, and I'm still not a big fan of. But if you're going to make him a starter, yeah, I guess at some point in time you have to try to run him out. But he's had some games where he's looked good through 5. So
Yeah.
okay, if he looks good through 5, maybe or you've got a bigger lead. I mean, it was 3-2 going into the bottom of the 6th. Like you said, there had been a little bit of a rain delay in there at one point. And he had 5 strikeouts on the night, so I guess that's something. But you just felt like you're playing with fire there, and
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, sometimes it is bullpen usage, but I mean, you think about they had the off day Monday. Tuesday night was May went deep, and then I think they didn't use a lot of people in New York. I don't think anybody should have been. I mean, JoJo Romero was off limits, I think, yesterday, but that was probably about it. I didn't 3-2 game. At that point in time, I would have let Leahy. I would have called it good after 5, and then I don't know. I think I would have tried to go to Roycroft there, just because if it went south, you have a chance to correct it. He went to Soriano when there were after Leahy had given up the 2 runs to give up the lead. That made sense. Soriano is always a good choice. And then the Graceffo made sense, but he obviously didn't necessarily have it.
Yeah.
And then there's Stanek, and I get it. Stanek kept giving up home runs, which was frustrating. But, Stanek hasn't given up a run since in over a month. I mean, I wanted him to I thought he might bring Stanek in, when I was kind of mapping it out, thinking Leahy was going to leave in the 5th. Stanek's probably your 8th inning guy anyway. And then Riley O'Brien the 9th. He gives up and he threw hard. He just threw it in the spot where everybody was. How much do you think for both sides? Because that was not a good game pitching wise either way. And I know there's issues, but how much of the fact that they played that game, it seemed like in a constant drizzle, if not more, how much do you think that impacted the game?
Probably a lot. I mean, because I felt like there was trouble throwing strikes on both sides for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little bit ugly. I mean, of course we weren't there, but then they put the tarpaulin and pulled it back off pretty quickly, but it was steady the whole time after that. So, I don't know. I mean, all a matter of, hey, we got to get it in somehow, type situation. Right. I don't know. But yeah, you're right. I think it definitely played a part.
Yeah, I mean, Cardinals got a benefit of that probably some degree, because I don't know how much the wetness played into the bases loaded walk to Burleson.
Sure. He really struggled that inning.
Yeah. I mean, and then of course Jordan Walker finishes it up with a double right after it. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know. I don't know. Looking at it, after Stanek gives up the 3-run bomb, he gets out of that inning. Cardinals score another run. I would have left him in, I think, because he's probably your best option. Because if you want to, and again, you don't necessarily want to keep your closer reserve, but somebody's going to have to pitch the 9th. And I think, you'd like it to be O'Brien, especially if you got a lead.
Yeah.
Maybe after the second home run, maybe after the first home run in the 8th, we tied it back up. Maybe you go to O'Brien then, but then again, it's tied. I don't know. It's frustrating to have a guy give up 3 bombs like that, especially a guy that's been pitching well. But once you've gotten to that point, I'm not 100% sure how I mean, you know how you yank him out of that. I mean, again, unless you're going to bring O'Brien in a tie game on the road, which I guess you could have, but O'Brien's not necessarily pitched all that great either lately. So,
Yeah,
I just it feels like some bad decisions early on kind of led to the point where you didn't have a whole lot of decisions.
sure. Yeah, that's hopefully it's a one-off. One of those, and go win today, and you forget about it pretty quickly.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the thing. That's a game I think you can, as a team, you can shake off. There's a lot of good things there, right? I mean, this you talked about it a minute ago. We talked about how the offense has changed, but I mean, what they scored 7 and 9 in the first 2 games against New York. They've scored 8 last night. Offense hasn't been a problem right now, and if you can do that, Twins bullpen has been iffy.
Yeah,
You've got, I mean, you're probably going to need to today with Liberatore, and then you got McGreevy. I mean, there's a really decent chance you're going to still win this series. And yeah, that game becomes a frustrating footnote. It's the fact if you go out and lose this series, a series that you probably should
yes,
win, that it makes it worse.
yes. No, I agree with that, and the overall opinion. Or I just feel like this is a trap series. You're just
Mhm.
like, this could look really bad if you lose it, and honestly, yeah, it's all. It's on in the scheme of things, it may not be as important, but with what you have going, with the momentum you have building in the division, and potentially a lead you have building, yeah, this could be, you could stub your toe pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, you got within 3.5 before the last 2 games of Milwaukee, which again, I like to look at the scoreboard. I don't really expect them to chase down Milwaukee, but it's kind of nice to look at. And so
Yeah,
you got it within 3.5, and then to lose the next 2 is disappointing, especially when others are winning around. Um, but it is also June. I mean,
yeah,
it's hard. You shouldn't be
agreed.
too worked up about it at that point in time. So, other move that was big this week, Nathan Church returns and Victor Scott goes to Memphis. And again, this is one of those moves where I don't think this happens last year. Vic has gone down and he's seemingly clicking down there. He had a double and a triple, I think, in his first game. He had another base hit last night. And hopefully that becomes a difficult decision pretty soon about, when to bring him back up. But were you surprised that, I mean, obviously, again, it's kinda like with Gorman, it had come to a point where they had to do something, but were you surprised that it was a minor league assignment?
Slightly. Yeah, whenever whenever word came out that he wasn't going to New York with them, kind of, it did surprise me a little bit, because I was thinking, well, you've seen some positives throughout the series,
Mhm.
just you thought, well, let's ride it out, see what happens. I mean, we know that defensive replacement aspect of it and stuff like that. You're going to find some at bats for the guy. The I was a little bit surprised, just because of the momentum. But two, is a little bit intrigued of, hey, this is kind of a proactive approach of how to handle this. Of, hey, we see what you've done so far. This is the landmarks you've hit. Go down, work on this, and let's see how quickly we can get you back up. I think that's an interesting mindset on this one.
Yeah, yeah, there's coming a point with some of these guys that they need to work on things, and they can do that at a lower level where you don't have to worry about winning every day. Again, how much of this is a reflection of the fact the Cardinals are competing, right? I mean, if the Cardinals are playing like we thought they were when they're like 6 or 7 games under 500, do you think they're making these moves, or did they just let them try to figure it out at the major league level? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I would ultimately, that may be some questions for next year about, hey, how did you balance all these things out?
Mhm.
Were you ahead of the curve? I know we yeah, Heim kind of talked about those things, but not necessarily in depth. But yeah, like I said, back to one of those fly on the wall, situations that can be extremely interesting this time of year, because you're thinking, well, you're way ahead of the curve at this point of maybe of what you initially thought you were going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's also interesting. It really feels like, like they've talked about Gorman and they're not 100% sure where he's gonna go. I think he's officially demoted to Memphis, but he might wind up at different places. And it really feels like they're trying to get these players with coaches that work for them, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and just showing that not one size doesn't fit all, because Casey Chenoweth made it up to the major leagues, and he's I don't want to say the Jordan Walker whisperer, but it's, they've got a connection. They've made this, and that's probably part of why Jordan Walker is so good this year is having that around. And Chenoweth has a great reputation, but obviously, sometimes you need somebody else in your ear, and it really feels like they're trying to look and see for Vic. Maybe there was somebody at Memphis they thought, or maybe there was like, you don't necessarily need coaching, you just need to, adjustments and reps at getting a chance to do that at a lower level. But it sounds like for Gordon, especially, they're going to try to find a coach that really works with him and see how that works.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that, and the way that it was reported yesterday, I mean, this may not be a short-term deal.
Mhm.
This could be some extended time, some extended work. Like, hey, how can we make this power profile stay around? And if in a game, in a time of, in a in an era in baseball where you can swallow some strikeouts for the home runs. I mean, it's just, you just can't crater like this. I mean, you're gonna have to figure out. You're gonna have to close some of those gaps, close some of those circles, and figure out if you can have what kind of sustainability you have at the big league level. And to be able to do that with to have the flexibility now that you have instructors and teachers and coaches down there that can be assigned to certain guys like this is really, really exciting to me.
Yeah. And hopefully it works, but it was interesting. Joe Sheehan, I'm subscribed to his newsletter, and he had a thing, I think it was this week, showing just how the game has changed with ages, and the fact that there's hardly anybody over 32 playing the ball game anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
the number of at bats for 33-year-olds, 34-year-olds, that's they're dropping off significantly there. Well, Jordan is Nolan Gorman is 26, right? Or he will be if he hasn't. He'll turn 26 this year if he hasn't turned it already. And I just, that window's gonna be pretty short if that holds up. And he doesn't,
Yeah.
he's not a body type, he's not an approach that would seem to go, kind of shake those off. So you look at it, if that's the case, you look at it, a window of 4 or 5 years maybe where he could have a career, and that's a hard thing for a guy that was, had so much promise. It's looking like it's just never gonna really fulfilled.
Yeah, it's yeah, always disappointing, but Father Time's undefeated. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's an interesting outlook, because I was thinking in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, is that right? And you're like, yeah, I mean, the days of playing into your 38, 39, 40, I mean, I think those went away with drug testing.
That's a lot of it is probably in that regard too, and some of it is, teams shifting that focus to younger players and
Yeah.
not paying. We've talked about so often that squeeze there of those veteran players that, should get a little bit more money, but they're not gonna do that, and they'll pay some, rookie level guy.
Well,
Um,
and honestly, this is not to open this the discussion, but this is going to be part of the labor agreement as
yeah,
well, that
yeah,
these guys need to get paid younger because they're not playing that much longer.
right. Right. Yeah, I think that's you're right. That's the initial offer from the players had the minimum salary going up to $1 million. And while I'm sure they don't necessarily expect to get that, I mean, it's already 785, right? So it's not a huge jump comparatively, but that's that kind of thing. That's that kind of idea of these guys are going to be coming up, and if they're gonna and if you're gonna have 6 years of control, I mean, if it was kind of like what we've talked about with JJ Weatherholt, right? I mean, he's what, 24 because he went through college and such. Is he that old? I think he is.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Cardinals have 6 years of control on him. He's 30 before he gets through arbitration. At that point in time, if you're looking at this idea that the window is, I mean, he's a player that I think could go past 32 or whatever, at least the way he looks now. But you know, how much you want to bet on him playing till he's 35, and that kind of stuff. So, those kind of things are going to be an impact as well, because, if a team's going to be able to control you that long, and that's pretty much all your career, it becomes harder to make big money as well. Arbitration helps, but I don't know. Those will be interesting points that get made in the CBA and see how that changes as they go forward. But as for Gorman, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I would love to see it, but it's becoming harder and harder to imagine it can actually happen.
Well, yes. Yeah, just because we've seen this same scenario play out for 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he's got, a ton of it. But I mean, and he had a good rookie year, but it was like second year. I think he had a pretty decent year. But it's just not been there. And, maybe they can make some adjustments. Maybe they can, but you're right. You're right. It's a long-term process. Is that a situation where you see him back? Do you think he's back before September?
Oh man, September would surprise me, but I don't. I mean, I think that. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I want to say August at some point, but that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I mean, you're losing a season out of it at that point.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, and I think I need to check. I know he's arbitration this year. I can't remember if it's his last arbitration year. If it's his last arbitration year and he's a free agent after 27, then let's see. Gorman. No, this is his second arbitration year. So you've got him one more. You've definitely got him. You've got him under control for next season. Actually, the next 2 seasons. No, this reads weird, so that's why I'm saying this.
No.
He'll have arbitration this off season, play 27. He'll have arbitration that off season and play 28, and then be a free agent at the end of 28. Assuming no changes or anything of that nature. But but it's again, man, if you lose a whole season here, do you even offer him a contract at the end of the year? I don't know. I think you probably do, but because he's going to sign a deal that's going to keep him out of arbitration, because there's no way he's winning an arbitration case. But and I think you want to try to keep him as long as possible, but it's becoming harder and harder to see a good resolution to this.
Yeah, I agree. That was some of my gut feeling when he was sent down to. Is there's some intrigue. I think we're gonna see him back at some point, but as far as the long-term plans go, you wonder. The first thing that came to my mind is I was like, well, gosh, he's been up and we've seen this, and of all the guys that we felt like this was a proving ground, we thought that Gorman had probably already proven what he was.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting to see how it's handled. I want to see how quickly he's forgotten and then comes back up. Yeah. I hope that it's one of those things where he just demolishes AAA and we get one final run out of him. One of those deals if it is time to move on. But yeah, this is going to be a test on the development that they put in place, and that will be intriguing to see how that's handled. And I do think we'll see him back at some point. But you're right. I think that they've messaged it enough to show that they're not moving off of him, but I do think that they've seen enough, potentially. So this may be the last straw.
The saving grace for Gorman is that there's not a third base prospect. I mean, yes, Jordan is now playing third base, but he's not a long-term solution. And Urias could be back, but he's he'll finish this year or whatever. They don't have their JJ Weatherholt for third base, that kind of thing. And if they did, this wouldn't have gone along as it did. But I don't know when that happens, because I don't think there's necessarily a third baseman in the system, or if there is, it's far down, that's going to be ready. Do the Cardinals look at a college third baseman in the draft? Not necessarily with their first pick or anything, but some high enough up that a guy that might be able to move fast. I don't know.
College infielder that that can profile. Would be interesting.
Yeah, because there's not a. I mean, maybe Jordan surprises us. Maybe he holds the position down pretty well and hits well enough, and he can we can start talking about him being there for a year or two. But it still feels like, they still got to find their third baseman. Um, that was one of the problems if shipping Nolan Arenado off was, at least at least you had third base covered for a while. But anyway, um, we will see how that all shakes out. I'm just trying. I think I mean, other than that, I mean, the team's rolling along pretty well. I feel like adding Larson Bar has really made a significant change to this team. We're usually getting fairly good pitching performances. Last night was kind of an exception. Hunter Dobbins pitched okay after getting out of the first inning,
Yes,
after
crazy.
that crazy start. He pitched pretty well. Went back down now. I was still a little bit surprised the Cardinals went to a 6-man, even temporarily because of the off days that were in there. I don't know if they just felt like somebody like Leahy needed an extra rest or what, but I was surprised they kind of slotted him in to that rotation, even and I guess more so that they did that just once, and now then they sent him back down instead of sticking with it. I don't know what the thinking was, unless somebody just needed an extra day.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing. So I want to see how they use it. Does any of this message that it may not be Dobbins that comes up to take the next 6-man rotation start?
I don't think so. I mean, I think he's done well enough that he could. Now, I'm not saying he will be the guy because I think Quinn Matthews is pitching much better as of late, and that'll
Yeah,
be intriguing, although they'll have to find a spot for him. But I think maybe more so that if they weren't wanting him to be that sixth starter, they would have left him up here to be a bullpen piece because
yeah.
obviously they could have used him, last night. But I don't know why would you say that?
Well, I just wondered. I mean, because I was thinking, well, the timeout. I understand that it kind of aligns with how the schedule is going to work out, but I kind of wondered if we wouldn't see a Matthews or a Motts or somebody like that, in the next time through. I will say this: in the long term of this, I don't know how sustainable it is to have this guy in the bullpen now. Whether it's a Dobbins or a Leahy, however this works out, I love the extended relief
Mhm.
guy.
Yeah.
I think that honestly, I kind of thought that this would happen before now, as far as how much the numbers show that the third time through a lineup is problematic for most starting pitchers. That we would see a middle relief guy who could just eat some innings up. There was a part of me that was disappointed to see that Dobbins was going to take a start, because I
Yeah.
was like, I love this role. To have a guy that can come in and just eat up multiple innings, all kinds of stuff like that. But I understand. I mean, in the long and short of this is still about development for these
Yeah.
guys and their first taste of big league action and all kinds of stuff in one of those. But I do like the long term effect of, in a playoff type scenario, or when you're in a hunt, to have that guy that can go out and shove for 2 to 3 innings in the middle of a game. That may be your save situation anyway. So there was part of that with me. But no, back to the question. I just wondered. I was throwing that out there. I kind of wondered if the schedule didn't align right, if we may see one of the other young guys just to give them a shot if they're pitching well, and just throwing the question out there to see how it would work out.
Yeah. Now, I mean, it's got to be 2 weeks now before Dobbins can come
Yeah,
back. So if something happens in that time period, sure. I mean, you're probably looking at Mounts, unless they're ready. And again, Matthews has pitched better as of late. It might be where they're getting close to being ready to add him into the 40-man and bring him up. We'll just have to wait and see. I agree with you on the long man. I think, in the past, especially I think it was the Matheny era, but maybe even otherwise, you always had this idea of, okay, well, this is the starter that can pitch multiple innings as a reliever, but then he turned into the pitcher under glass because he never got to pitch, right?
yeah, yeah, yes,
Because you had a lot of veteran guys that were going 6, 7 innings, and then you turned it over to the bullpen. This rotation especially has a lot of guys, and now, as you don't tend to want to go to the third time through anyway for a lot of people, but this rotation has a lot of guys that you will pull after 5 innings at best, right? And maybe before. So if you if you schedule it out, it almost piggybacking. But there's enough options that I think you could keep. Now, again, I agree with you. You're right. Dobbins needs to develop, needs to be staying on the starter rotation, all that kind of stuff. But having that kind of guy, again, I mean, if you had that kind of guy last night, I think everything goes differently, right? I don't know that Ollie tries to push Leahy into the sixth if he knows he's got a guy that can cover 2 or 3 innings. Maybe he does. Maybe like I said, maybe it's a growth opportunity for Leahy that he failed. But I like that for this team, especially, because I think it can be very well used.
Yeah, that's that was my thinking. I know we've had the guys before that aligned well for that role that didn't pitch for 3 weeks. One of those deals, and that was always frustrating, or would be down before they would get sent down before they get another appearance, type situation. But yeah, this rotation to me aligns well with it, and with this season being a proving ground of what you have, I feel like that's a good opportunity for some of these younger guys.
Yeah, I agree. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes and how that all develops. I'm interested to see how things. I think today's a big game. Not a big game because it's still June, and again, we're not
Sure.
necessarily expecting that, but it is a very interesting game to see what kind of bounce back that they have. And you're right. I think we all wonder where the banana peel is and when they're going to hit it. But you know, we, nobody goes 162-0, and teams have rough stretches. Even a team like the Dodgers or the Brewers, they may have a stretch where they lose, 4 or 5 or something of that nature. I mean, Milwaukee went out and lost to Sacramento and Las Vegas a couple times.
Yeah.
So it happens, and hopefully that they can bounce back and we can see a much better game this afternoon.
Well, and you're right. I mean, I don't think they truly have an ace, but in all honesty, your opening day starter goes today.
Mm,
That's one of those to where
right.
you're thinking, well, let's uh let's see if you can come in, steal the win here, and maybe go and win a series on a Sunday and build up for the next homestand. I mean, yeah, you're right. You're right. I do think there's some weight with what goes on today, to try to seal the deal and win a series. That they've positioned themselves well to uh, to be here and to change the narrative for guys like us who think, "Yeah, is how sustainable is this, and are they better than they were last year? Like we feel like they are. We got to
Yeah.
win series like this."
And again, the comparison to last year is fair because they have hit the same, record to some degree, although
Yes.
they're a little bit, they're ahead of last year a little bit now. But the teams are so different. I mean, this team has been good the whole time, has been consistently building, it's
Yeah.
gone ebb and flow, but has consistently built up to where it has now. Last year they started off with a terrible April, got hot, veteran leadership, that kind of stuff. He had Sonny Gray and Wilson Contreras and all those kind of people doing stuff. It's records same, but the teams are so different that it's hard to draw conclusions. Even though it's fair to do, fair to at least try, I guess. I don't worry about this team falling apart because last year's team fell apart. I just worry about this
Yes.
team falling apart because we didn't think it was going to be this good.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, that's well put because I kind of feel the same way. You just feel like the needles just move completely different, even though the records are similar. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? Because there was times last year where
Yeah,
they just didn't
yeah,
hit, and you're just like, well, there's 3 or 4 teams. Because if you remember last year, we were thinking if Pittsburgh hits, the Cardinals could be the last place team in this division really quickly. I remember
yeah,
having that
yeah.
conversation. Well, this year I don't know, and that may happen. You never know. But I feel like after seeing some of the teams that we've had and seeing that the roster is what it is, and then I'm convinced that some of these younger guys are who they are. I feel like the needle is pointing upward more than it was last year, even though
Yeah,
you had the veteran starting pitching that you thought could get you out of long losing streaks.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
Ultimately,
I
I was
agree.
not the biggest fan of one of those aces, but neither here nor there. Boston can
Yeah,
deal with that.
yeah. That is true. So, um, yeah, I think it's fun. I mean, again, it has been and to your phrase, they haven't wasted our summer yet. And I don't think they're going to for a while. I think it's going to be an intriguing run, no matter what the results are. And I think it's been, this week has proven that Heimblum is deliberate but aggressive. He's going to make the moves that need to be made. Maybe with less regard for, I don't even know what the way to put it, but the less regard for past history maybe is the best way.
Yes.
Because again, Mo did some things, and obviously Mo demoted Gorman a couple times too. But I still feel like if Mo's there today, Gorman and Scott are still on this team, and they're trying to figure out, maybe they're playing less, but I think they're still here. I just think we've seen some moves from Heim that we wouldn't have seen, and that's nice. I mean, not to throw shade or anything of that nature. I just think it's an adjustment to what this team is now, and it's paying off for them.
Agreed. I mean, and then how not only I mean, they're kind of doing the show that they're proving us. Listen, we said this, we're going to prove it. These are the things that we're going to do. We're going to give opportunities. We're going to do this and this and this. I agree with that. I feel like we've seen it in their actions. Do you feel even better after speaking one-on-one with Heim about this?
I mean, yeah, I think it was
Agreed.
a good thing to, kind of get that. I mean, I don't know that we would have expected anything different. But yeah, I think that he's obviously very thoughtful about this stuff, and there's this idea of really developing this. And again, I mean, and that gets us back to that discussion we've had, and again, we do not necessarily need to have, but this idea of, are they going to stick to it? Are they going to trade Dustin May and get prospects? Are they going to trade Riley O'Brien and get prospects, even if they're 5 or 10 games over 500? I don't know. Again, I think it's probably too early to talk about that, but I also think that Heimblum is committed to doing that kind of stuff if he thinks it's necessary, no matter what. I mean,
Yeah,
you've got to
I agree
balance.
with that.
Yeah, you got to balance what the clubhouse, how the clubhouse is going to react to you, as somebody, the terminology of rewarding them and things of that nature. But there's also the idea of, guys, this is the plan, and if this is, we've been open with you about the plan, and this isn't we're not built for long-term success yet, and we're going to do this to be sure
Yeah,
we are.
I
So
no, I think you hit the needle on the head right there. They hit the nail on the head. Because I think this is a front office, and I think that we've seen in the messaging and the ability to communicate and be upfront from Bloom and the organization at this point, that even if they stick with the plan, and I do feel like the goodwill is built up enough to where I don't think it'll be a complete sell off if you're close and like, hey, we're going to crater out because we feel like A, we're in it now, but B, we want them to win the division next year, or or 28, 29. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
I do have faith in an organization that the messaging will be good, whatever direction they decide to go. I think
Mhm.
that it'll be convincing, and I think that it'll be hey, this is why we did this. We understand that we're here now, but this is where we want to be. And I feel like that's going to be. I feel like I trust the organization right now to a point where I haven't in the past 5 years, to where it's hey, we understand this town wants a winner, this fan base wants a winner, this is for the long term plan, and I think that the messaging on that will be positive. You know what I mean? I don't think it'll be a hey, we cratered because of such. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I've kind of wrapped my head around that at this point. You're just like um I trust where the organization's going one way or the other, and I think that they will be upfront about why they did it.
I believe that communication is much better with this front office,
Agreed.
both to fan bases and to players. I feel like, I mean, I don't know for sure, obviously, with this latter, but I feel like there's probably been a lot more discussion, a lot more interaction. There's more people around, right? More coaches and stuff like that to be able to pass on the message. And it feels like they've tried to keep everybody on the same page. Heimblum has been, involved with the players, stuff like that. So I do think that if they decide to do that, that the communication is going to be out there and the logic is going to be out there. Like he said when he was with us, that's his job, is to show the logic of the decisions, even if they're not popular. And I think that's the key. It's going to be able to explain it 6 ways to Sunday, but there is going to be a good section of the fans that aren't going to handle that very well. And a lot of them are probably, more casual, more of the people that you find on Facebook groups. But and I don't want to, they're just coming at it a different way, different family. They're not necessarily spending an hour podcasting about it or anything of that nature. And I think there's going to be that section that's just not going to, it's much like this off season, right? The people that didn't quite understand why they were trading off Brendan Donovan or Nolan Arenado or any of these. Why are they just tearing this team down? That kind of stuff.
Yes.
Need to be torn down. So if they trade while they're still in contention, there is going to be a section of the fan base that's not going to like that very well, no matter how much you explain it to them. But
sure.
I think there are going to be others that are like, I don't like it, but I understand it.
Yeah. It's I do wonder if common sense will win out whenever they come out and make the decisions that they do. Somewhat, I can't believe that just came out of my mouth because I don't think sense is too common nowadays.
I'm gonna say, if you're betting on common sense, Alan, you're going to lose that one. And Alan. Apparently, Alan bet on common sense, and then we lost him. Okay. Well, I don't know exactly what happened, but we were running to the end of our time today anyway. So hopefully we will be back next week. I am actually going to sit down and do Gateway. So, I've lost mine. Maybe it's me. All right. But anyway, until next time, for Alan, I'm Daniel. Good night.
Is at 4 home runs this postseason. He's swinging for number 5 right there, and it's a full count.
The Rangers a strike away from winning it in both the 9th and 10th innings. 2 strikes on Freese, 2 strikes on Berkman.
Hits it in the air to center. We will see you